Hey, how are we doing today? I hope you're having a great Thursday morning so far. I'm trying to figure out what like celebrity thing that reminded me of. I feel like it's something that's like, hey, hey, hey. Is that the Kool-Aid Man? Anyway, I hope you're having an awesome day so far. It's currently still morning here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, when and where you are tuning in. I hope your day is a great one so far. If we haven't met yet, I am Kate. I am the owner of Wild Clementine. I have two other businesses that I own as well. Clem Studios, which focuses on weddings, Clem & Co, which focuses on brand photography, but I don't need to dive into that here. This is Wild Clementine, and this is my home for my sort of passion projects on travel, food and drink, being environmentally friendly, landscapes. They still have the photography undertones that all of my businesses do. I am a photographer and entrepreneur by trade. But I love talking about travel, ways to be sustainable and eco-friendly, food, drink, anything like that. Actually, what I would love is either one, if you can tag a fellow traveler besides yourself in the comment section that you think might benefit from this, or let me know the next place that you are traveling this year. I'm trying to think what ours are. Next month I will be in New Jersey for work. In April I will be in St. Louis and Austin, Texas for work. May I will be in Aspen for work and play. We've got some good stuff on the docket. Things kind of settle down this fall when it gets closer to our wedding, of course. So today, I wanted to share some eco-friendly travel practices. I know that as somebody who is eco-conscious, I am always thinking about ways that I can have a little bit less of an impact on the planet. It's so hard to be perfect when it comes to being, hey Jamie, thanks for being here. It's so hard to be perfect when it comes to environmentally friendly and conscious and that kind of thing, because there are always ways that we are going to be impacting the planet. That is just the fact of life. Thanks, Jamie. She's commenting on my sweater. Jamie lives near Vail, one of our favorite places on this planet. But there are so many different ways that we make an impact on this planet, even just by breathing and existing and eating and all of those things. So I think one of the common themes that can kind of feel like from environmental groups and that kind of thing is almost that they're shaming us for living, which that I'm trusting that's not their intention when they're trying to share this information with us. But there are so many different ways I think that we can be really conscious in making an effort of making less of an impact on the planet. And I generally think that's the intention behind what they're sharing, is just awareness and making some of those options available. So I want to share that in a travel themed post. So like I just mentioned, I travel a ton, and that's just opportunities outside of the state of Wisconsin and beyond, like Chicago. We travel within the state a lot during the month and weeks as well. And these are some of the practices that I take on fairly frequently, or just, you know, sporadically from traveling to bigger cities and that kind of thing. There are so many different things that can be done to reduce our impact while we're traveling. I linked an article. I don't know if it's below me right now or above me or next to me. It's somewhere around my little face here. There is a Condé Nast article that's got some really great ideas. I know that there are, like I said, just tons. If there's anything that I don't mention that you love doing or that you practice while you travel, please feel free to leave it in the comments. I'm always looking for ways to broaden my horizons. So these are no particular order. It's just things that I've kind of taken notes on while I've traveled the past few months, prepping up to this point in this video. Okay, so here we go. So first would be, if you are staying in a hotel, use only one of the garbages in the room. Oftentimes there is a garbage can in the bathroom and then a garbage can in the main room. If you can, use just one of them, because that way they only have to take out one plastic bag rather than two. Just a simple way to cut down on that. Also, one thing that I've noticed is not a ton, there are a fair amount that do, but not a ton of hotels in the United States have a strong recycling practice. So sometimes what I will do is I will take, like if I grab some groceries at a local grocery store, I'll keep a paper bag and then put all of my recyclable items in there, and either bring it down to the front desk, ask them if they have recycling because there wasn't one in the room. Also brings them some awareness that their clients are actually looking for that. Or trying to find a recycling bin near the hotel. It's frowned upon to like bring those things into businesses and that kind of thing and just shove your recycling in there. But if you can find one nearby, that can be a great practice too. Also, if you're staying at a hotel, reuse your towel and don't have your sheets changed. You know, when we're here at home, I mean, I don't know what your practices are, but I change my towel probably like once a week. Not sure if that makes me gross for saying that out loud right now, but I'm figuring it's clean bath water that I am toweling off myself after I've already rinsed my body, so it's probably pretty clean. So we're just going to go with that and maybe move past that if you think that's gross. So reuse your towel and don't have the sheets changed every day. That reduces the amount of water that they're using to wash those items. One thing that I will say a lot of hotels are practicing now is those kind of green laundry standards where if you leave it on the ground and you have room service come in, they'll change it. If you have it hanging up or there's a little card that you can put out, you don't need things changed. So I invite you to consider that. Also, if you are at a hotel or an Airbnb, turn whatever the weather dictates, either turn the heat down or the AC up. So right now it's winter, so I'd say turn the heat down if you're not in the room for a long amount of time or while you're sleeping. Or in summer, turn the AC so the room gets warmer if you're not going to be in there for a long time, because you're not in there. So it's a waste of energy to try and keep the room at that standard same freezing cold or really warm temperature. However, don't crank it down so much if you're just going to be gone for, maybe 8 hours, that the system has to work really, really hard to get it back up to that temperature. So I usually turn it down maybe, 3 or 4 degrees, something like that. And that's usually what we practice here at home too. People think that we're crazy. We keep our house at 65 degrees. That's about the warmest that it gets. And then we turn it down to 61 at night. So we've got about a 4-degree range. I do keep a space heater in my office because this is a corner room. I have 2 windows. And I do shut the door because I have plants in here and I have cats and they eat everything that moves and is green. So I have the space heater so that I'm able to keep it warmer in here without having to crank the heat up in the whole house. Next would be bringing a reusable water bottle while you travel. I almost always take this with me. I use this daily. I put hot tea in here and then I just pour it into a mug so that it cools down faster and I can have hot tea throughout the day. But I usually bring this and this one while I travel, depending on where I'm going, how much space I have, that kind of thing. Usually I keep one that has water in it, and then I'll keep one empty, usually this Yeti, for warm stuff. So if I want to like stop at Starbucks or, a local coffee shop or grab a tea or whatever it may be, having one available so that I can put a drink in there and then have water consistently available. That way I'm not constantly buying disposable water bottles, just plastic water bottles. A lot of times with those, water bottles that we're buying at the gas station and that kind of a thing, they're using what's called virgin plastic. So it's plastic that was made for the first time, not recycled plastic, which takes a lot of energy. That's pretty harmful to the planet. With those plastics and that kind of thing, when we're reusing them, some of those break down while we're using those water bottles. That gets into our body. And then two, sometimes the sources of those water and the practices of those companies aren't very smart or friendly. I know there have been a couple in the news recently. What was the latest one? Crystal Geyser, I think, that they admitted to like dumping arsenic in waterways or things like that. So having reusable water bottles, whether that's for actual water, warm drinks, I always bring those with me. And it's really great too on a plane when we have to dump that when we go through security or make sure that they're empty. I personally just make sure that they're empty before I pack them. And then we can fill it up with nice cold bubbler, since I'm here in the Midwest, bubbler water or water fountain water, and then it stays cold all through the flight. Next up, oh, and side note, back to the water bottle thing too, then you can also have this in your hotel room rather than using those plastic cups that the hotel has, or when they have the glass cups wrapped in plastic to protect them, and then you have to take the plastic off and throw them out and just use the cup. It gets rid of all of that plastic in there. Okay, next would be turning the lights off and turning the TV off when you leave the room or your hotel room or your Airbnb. This is one thing that I don't understand. Andy sometimes will like leave the house or like go to do something else for a long period of time and just leave the TV on. Like, do you have this on for the dogs, the cats? Like, nobody's watching. What are we doing, bro? Let's turn this off. So being conscious of turning all of that off when you are going to be leaving the space for a long time. One thing that I would say is if you are a female traveling alone and leaving a light on for when you return that makes you feel safer, totally do it. I mean, safety first. As long as we're alive and we can promote saving the planet a little bit more, I think that might be okay over turning off, you know, keeping one light on or turning one off. But also just being aware of like if a light switches by your door when you're able to walk in and flip it on real quick and that kind of thing, or having your flashlight on or whatever it may be. But turning lights off and TV off when you leave the space. Next would be bring less luggage when you travel. This could be flying or driving. Either way, the more weight that we are bringing with us, the more fuel that requires, whether we're driving or flying. And then therefore, that's going to burn, you know, a ton more fuel when we have all that weight. I know that Frontier Airlines, they have you pay for a carry-on stowed bag and your checked bags simply because of their commitment to be more environmentally friendly. And it does work. I try and get things in as few bags as possible when I am flying Frontier because they're reminding me of that practice and I simply don't want to pay for it. So anything that you can do to have less luggage, less weight with you wherever you are, that will be kind to the earth. Next up would be around shampoo and conditioner and soap. So if you can bring your own bars of shampoo, conditioner, and soap, and even having this in your everyday practice and life. That way we are cutting down on those plastic bottles. One shift that I'm noticing that I am loving in hotels is they are starting to have more containers like bolted to the walls or in some sort of little tray, like in larger amounts for their shampoo and their conditioner and their lotion and body wash and that kind of thing, rather than having the individual little toiletry options. With that, many of those are, you know, difficult plastics. They don't necessarily have a recycling system in place. So when you're able to bring that with you, you get to completely eliminate all of that plastic use. I will say there are times where I simply forget and I don't have shampoo and my only option is to use one of the little tiny shampoo bottles. And what I will do then is just consciously bring it back with me rather than, you know, using half of it and leaving it, so that I can use it all up and then I can recycle it at home. Because like I said, a lot of times hotels, unfortunately, I'm not seeing a lot of recycling options there. Next up would be bring a reusable tote with you. So inevitably at some point, you're probably going to either get some takeout food or run to Walgreens to grab something or the local grocery store, or you just need an extra bag to throw your pool sandals in or whatever it may be. Having that reusable tote rather than a plastic bag option, always great. And they can roll up and just stow in some tiny little place, and that limited luggage that you've given yourself to be eco-friendly, you could even use it as your backpack, whatever it may be. But a reusable tote is a great option to have. Next, I would say is a compact metal straw. I have one. I've mentioned it so many times, I should next time just go and grab it and have it set here for us. I can't remember the name of what the straw is. I will put it in the comments afterwards, but I have one that has like a rubber lining and I'm able to just pull it and break it apart into like 4 pieces, and then it fits in this little bright lime green, my favorite color. It's like some sort of eco-friendly material case. And then I don't need to use a straw anywhere that I go, provided that I remember it. I will admit that I don't always remember my metal straw, but whether we're going to get some cocktails or you go to a restaurant and you order a water and you just want to have a straw, I use this, you know, here at home. We have a ton of metal straws in our drawers, take them with us to restaurants, and definitely while we travel too. Next would be using public transportation whenever possible. And this is one of those where it kind of depends on where you're traveling and what you're doing. Here in Green Bay, we just have a bus system that admittedly I have never used. That might be something that I'll consider this summer, depending on what I'm doing. But either using public transportation, like, a bus, a subway system, a rideshare kind of a thing, or a lot of larger cities, I don't think Green Bay is cool enough to have this yet, have those like Lime bikes and the little scooter thingies that can zip you around. That I forgot where Andy and I were. It might have been Austin last year. It was like his dream, his life goal to use one of those, but he didn't take the time to go do it. But those are also a great option and more eco-friendly than using a cab and that kind of thing. So if those are available, first off, let me know how it goes. Tell me what they're like. Maybe I'll indulge when I am in Austin in April. But those are a great option for you too. Next would be considering alternative lodging. So again, this kind of depends on where you're going, but if you're able to camp and stay in a tent or a yurt or something like that, that doesn't require heating and cooling and massive amounts of running water and electricity and that kind of a thing, that is a very eco-friendly practice. Next would be somewhat along those lines, less showering. So again, this kind of depends on the type of travel that you're doing, why you're traveling. If I'm traveling for work, I oftentimes am showering probably every day. I also work out every day, and I am a person that sweats a lot when I work out. So depending on the type of travel that I'm doing, if I am camping and hiking and know that I'm going to get sweaty again, I kind of just bring a washcloth and wash it off, and then use some dry shampoo, put my hair on top of my head. Andy's already stuck. Like, I'm not worried about impressing him with how I smell anymore. So less showering can also be a way to save water if that's something you're comfortable with. If not, that's cool, but just an option for you. And then the last one that I wrote down, which can be somewhat, I don't want to say controversial, but there have been a ton of interesting conversations around this, would be stop geotagging when posting on social media. If there is a little known place that you think deserves protecting and it's super cool, but there's potential for it to be overrun with tourism, don't tag it. And this is a practice that I see a lot of elopement photographers doing. I follow a number of adventurous elopement photographers, and they won't post like the super cool places that they go. And at first I was like, why? Like, I want to know, I want to go there, I want to take people. But they have put in the time and the work to research these places, to actually do the work rather than just looking on social media and following the trends. And then they go there and they see how special the places are, and they see the potential that, it could become overrun with tourists, and they're conscious of that, and they're willing to sacrifice, I don't know, maybe somebody being mad at them for not geotagging in favor of protecting that place. Just one example that comes to mind is I read an article recently about Grand Canyon National Park and how there is, I just know kind of the high level details. There is a company that wants to build up the tourism in one of the cities close to the South Rim. And so the South Rim of the Grand Canyon has, very little lodging options, little food options, because of the way that it would impact the environment. So if this company were to build up the tourism, because the Grand Canyon is the most visited national park in this country, it's like, 5 million visitors a year or something like that. It might be up to 6 million. So there's definitely, it would be filled, it would be used. However, the environmental agencies that work with the National Park Service and those within the National Park Service have determined that if this city were to build up its tourism and put in like the underground plumbing and all of that stuff that would be necessary, it would affect the watershed into the canyon, which the canyon relies on water. It was made from water, and it's affected by how much water is available in the canyon. And there were just so many interesting points of how this would be affected by, there's obviously a demand for this because people are visiting this so frequently, they're geotagging, they're talking about it, and that's just kind of one of the negative effects, unfortunately, of tourism and people visiting so many awesome places. So that's not to tell anybody to not travel. That's not going to happen. I'm going to continue traveling. I'm also going to continue to use my voice and be an advocate when I can, but consider not geotagging where you're going if it's a very limited, secluded place that you want to continue preserving. Okay, so to recap the list really quick, number 1 would be use only one of the garbages in your hotel room rather than multiple. 2, reuse your towels and don't have your sheets changed daily. 3, either turn the heat down or the AC up, depending on the time of year, if you're going to be gone for a long period of time. I lost my numbers. So next would be bring a reusable water bottle or 2 while you travel. Turn the lights and the TV off when you leave if you're not using them. I am looking at you, Andrew James Lindsay. Next would be using less luggage and traveling lighter. Next, using shampoo and conditioner in soap bars rather than the bottles of little toiletries at the hotel. Bringing a reusable tote for takeout or any places that you might need a plastic bag. Using a compact metal straw rather than straws available at public places. Using public transportation. Considering alternative lodging like camping or yurts. Doing less showering while you're traveling. And finally, not geotagging the special places that you want to preserve. Like I said, there are so many different ways that we can be smart and eco-friendly while we travel. This is just merely scratching the surface, but these were the ones that I found to be potentially the easiest and available to everyone and for people to start practicing today. I've attached an article from Condé Nast that has a full list, A to Z, of eco-friendly travel practices. Feel free to dive in on your own. And if you have any other thoughts or ideas or ways that you practice being eco-friendly while you travel, please feel free to leave it in the comments, send me a message, send me an email. My direct email is kate@wildclementine.com. I'm always looking for ways to continue this conversation, expand my eco-friendly travel practices, and just be a good steward of this planet. All right, thanks guys so much for tuning in. We can do so much when we use our voices, when we come together and we talk about the things that matter to us. So I hope you have a little bit of inspiration for your day. I can't wait to see what conversations come from this, and I will talk to you soon. Have a good one.